What's up, guys? Welcome to Smart Tips and Tricks. I'm Jameson Crast, and this week we have a cool series for you. We're going to build a 1,000-yard gun for under $1,000, and we're going to do it all with parts made right here in the USA. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so we just got back from Texas at the Outdoor Solutions range. We took this gun right here and we shot it at 300, 500 to 1,000 yards. She performed flawlessly. So now we're back in the studio and I'm gonna break down exactly what we did to get this gun to shoot that way. But if you guys wanna see exactly how the gun performed, skip all this and get right to the field, check out the link above and see how this gun right here performed, all put together with parts made in the US of A. So guys, in making this setup, remember we were tasked with two things here. Had to be under $1,000, fully set up and done, excluding tax, and it needed to be all made right here in the USA. So starting with the rifle, we went with the Ruger American, chambered in a 6.5 Creedmoor. Phenomenal rifle, shoots great, great trigger, no complaints at all. From the scopes, start narrowing it down, what's made in here in the USA, boom, Leupold. So this scope right here is the VX Freedom series in a 4 to 12 by 40. Awesome scope, lifetime guarantee, and the little part right there, designed and manufactured in the USA. Next part is the rings. Again, sticking Leupold here. These are the precision fit rings. So with these right here, everything coming in under $1,000. Now the fun part starts. Let's put it together. All right, guys, so the Ruger American, like I said, this is the Ruger American Predator, chambered in a 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, one thing to note that plays into the cost, plays into all of this when you're building this comes with a pick rail attached. Okay, so a lot of rifles, bolt action rifles, don't come with this pick rail. So depending on what you're building, you're gonna have to find one designed for that model. Now, the nice part about the Ruger American is they already put this on here, so it's one less piece of equipment I've got to buy. So the first thing here that you're gonna need is you're gonna need some sort of a vise. I have worked with various models. This vise right here is solid. Whether you're working on AR, shotgun, muzzleloader, it's great. But you're gonna want this somewhat level right now. We're gonna get into the fine tuning later, but just so you can work on it, get it in a comfortable spot, get it fairly tight. Now for the scope, we went with the Leupold VX Freedom. This is their 4 to 12 by 40. The duplex reticle. And also notice that it has the new CDS system so you can dial. Okay, that's gonna come in down the road when we take this to the range. And last, with the Leupold precision fit bases, we went with a medium. Now I'll explain to you what that means and where that plays in. Now keep in mind 1-inch medium rings here. So we got the gun in the vise. We have not worried about anything level yet. We got the rings ready to roll. Now this is where you're gonna need some extra equipment. So what I use is the Wheeler level right here, okay? This is a 2-part series. Get it at your local sporting goods store. And the point of this is to make sure that the gun is level to start with. Once your gun is level, when you put the scope on, you can make sure that your reticle is level, okay? So that's a crucial part, and you're really gonna notice it when you start shooting distance. All right, so that's where this little guy comes in. We're putting him on here. We want this to be level this way. So looking, he's not level right there, so we're gonna adjust this. Loosen that. And right there, that's level. Now that's where this part comes in, okay? This is the barrel end. So we're gonna take this, go down here to the end of the barrel. What this is gonna do is it's gonna let us remove the one there so we can put the bases on the pick rail, and this is gonna maintain the level of the rifle. Let us know that it's still level. So we clamp the bottom part down. Then you can take this part right here, tighten it or loosen it, and you can see that this is moving the bubble. Got it. So that bubble's right there perfectly in the center. Come back here, check this one. Perfect. So these two right here are saying the exact same thing, speaking the same language. Boom, boom, level, level. Now that lets us take this guy, set him off to the side for when we put the scope on. So now we've got this rifle in here clamped off, tightened down. We know that it's level here. This is what we're gonna be referencing from here on out. Now we go back to our scope rings. Now this, I'm not doing this perfectly. We're just getting these on here because we're gonna move everything back and forth. So, got the bases on here, but not tightened down. Now we're gonna check the scope. Obviously make sure that this is the adjustable part here with the magnification to your eye. We're setting this on here. Okay, and what I'm looking for here is I want to make sure that when you slide this back and forth, we don't want this part of the ring touching the bell of the scope. Okay, for example, this right here would not be good. That would not work. At the same time, this can't be touching. We don't want this touching this. Right around here, we don't want this touching this, okay? So you're gonna have to find, it's a little dance here. You wanna find the base where they're not touching, the right distance apart. Right there, solid. It's on the tube. Right there, I would live with that. Now, the last thing that I'm gonna do quick while this is touching is I'm gonna slide in behind the gun, and this is where you're checking your eye relief. We're gonna dial this in because I know I have room to scoot this scope at least 3/4 of an inch forward and backwards, okay? So this does not need to be perfect. But right now I'm gonna slide in behind the gun and rest my cheek just like I were getting down behind it and make sure that my eye relief is perfect. Now when you're talking about your eye relief, basically what that is when you get your eye behind it, are you seeing just a little bit of fuzz all the way around the scope, or are you able to see the perfect clear picture? The entire scope, the entire ring of the scope has an image in it, okay? So you're gonna get in behind here. That's close. I actually could bring it back a hair. So what I'm gonna do is move him back one, move him back a slot. Get back on here, get in behind the gun. Right in there, I'm liking it. All right, so now we're going back here to the level because I was touching the gun. See how this is just a hair off, so we're adjusting this. Okay, so our bubble's level. Now we can go ahead and take these off. All right, so now that we've got this roughed, this is where we're gonna use the next part here. This is a torque wrench, okay? We're gonna use this by Wheeler, and you're gonna find the right end that works with your bases. All right, so what this is gonna let us do is these bases, these rings all have a spec in which you can torque it down to, okay? You can over torque them, you can under torque them. You can break these rings, okay? I've done it. Doesn't work out well. All right, guys, so on these rings, if you look carefully, every single set comes with the torque instructions inside, okay? So this tells you where we want to take this. If you read here, it tells you want to tighten the screws to 25 inch-pounds, okay? So that's crucial so that you don't over-tighten or under-tighten and break these rings. So on this tool right here, all we're doing is cranking this down, setting it to 25. Okay, now when you get to 25 pounds, you got a slip clutch, it will not let you go any further. So we've got these rings on here. We're just gonna slowly start tightening these up, okay? You're gonna bring it down. Now one crucial part in this is you gotta think about the recoil of the gun, okay? When you shoot, the gun is gonna come back. So what is this gonna wanna do? This is gonna wanna stay right here. It's gonna wanna slide forward, right? So if I were to have this all the way back, okay, and then this gun slid, it's got room to move, right? If I have this all the way up against towards the muzzle of the gun, when I start tightening this down, as the recoil comes backwards, this has got nowhere to go. It's already up against this rail, okay, in the slot. So that's a crucial little thing that I've messed up in the past at least, and I know a lot of others have. So when you're setting this, slide it all the way up against the top, slide it all the way up against towards the front, and just start tightening this down. So all that right there is snug, okay? Same thing with this guy. We know roughly where our spacing is. We're sliding him all the way up to the front, can't go any further. And I'm just gonna slowly start tightening him down. Just touching there. Just touching there. Go back and forth, just touching each one of these. Now, some of you might be saying, well, how come you're not putting Loctite on there? And a lot of people do. I normally do when I'm building the rifle, but for this rifle right here, we're actually giving this away at the end of this whole series, okay? Somebody will walk away with this entire gun setup exactly as it is today, plus a Harris bipod. So because of that, their eye relief might be different. So I'm not gonna put any Loctite on here in case they need to go back through and move these screws and these bases and the rings. Just going back and forth. Now here's where you can crank it down, okay? So again, we set this to 25 inch-pounds because that's what the spec said for the torques. Now I'm gonna twist. Twist. Now if you notice, you cannot over crank it, okay? Just keep slipping. So, Wheeler makes these, a lot of different companies make these. Valuable little tool if you're gonna be building guns. Now, we got these babies set. So, getting back to our scope. Getting the scope set on here. We know roughly where it was for our eye relief, okay? Setting the tops on. Now the tops, if you notice, like I said, this is a 1-inch scope. The tube is. They come in 1 inch, they come in 34 millimeters, and they come in 30 millimeters. You're gonna want your rings to match whatever the tube of the scope is. So I'm setting these guys on here. They have 4 screws. Now these also, in a normal scenario, I were building this gun to go hunt with tomorrow, I would be putting Loctite on these because somebody's gonna be winning them or not. So now that I've got this, I'm just gonna slowly just touch these screws right here. Just to get them in there so the scope doesn't go freewheeling, all right? Now this is also gonna be in the instructions, but you're gonna wanna do a crisscross pattern when we come down to it, and I'll show you that again when we get tightening these. But I'm not cranking anything down, just touching them right there. Now that we got this scope on here, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna take this level. Again, this is right here in the bubbles right here in the middle, tells us the gun is level. Now we need our reticles to be level as well. So setting it right on top here, this is perfectly level. And I'm gonna adjust this scope until that's level. So again, we're verifying with these 2 bubbles. Level, level, bubbles in the center. Now again, back to the torque specs. I have seen rings that are different, where the base screws, you might screw to 35, the top to 25, vice versa. So check that. This set, both are going to 25 inch-pounds. So now we're doing the crisscross method, okay? We're gonna start, I'm gonna go here to here, and then I'm gonna go here to here. Boom, 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 crisscross, okay? What that's doing is you not just crank it down one side, and then this one's not being cranked down, and then you crank this one down. You're going 1, 2, 3, 4, crisscross method, okay? And I'm gonna slowly, this is not a quick process. I'm cranking a little bit, coming over to this one. Now one thing that we want to maintain here that you're going to notice is the spacing on each side of these rings, okay? So what I mean by that is if you look right here, there's a little bit of space. You're going to want the same side, the same spacing on each side. You don't want these cramped down where one's farther on this side and one's not on this side, okay? You also don't want to take the little wrench that it came with and just crank these down as tight as you can. You can mess up your scope rings, which I've done. You can mess up your scope, which I've done. So look, I'm trying to save you guys a little money here. Do not over crank. Get yourself one of these, it's worth it, okay? So like I said, we're going crisscross method, back and forth. Maintaining spacing on each side, just a little at a time. Little at a time. So now I'm just starting to get a little bit of resistance. So now here's where, if you over crank this, it will actually twist this scope in here. So this is where I'm watching this here, okay? So we're coming there, come back here. You're just gonna work back and forth. Okay, verifying both levels, continually checking them, checking your spacing. Okay, now I got the resistance, taking it to its set. Set. All right, if you look right there, the bubble's perfectly centered. The bubble's perfectly centered. My front is set. Now we're coming back here to the back and just gonna do the exact same thing. Crisscross method, maintaining spacing on each side of the ring here. Slowly crank this down. Now this one's a little easier because in theory, the front of the scope's already cranked down, so this should not be moving much, twisting left and right. It's still possible too. Okay, we're looking bubble centered, crank down to 25 inch-pounds. Now I just like to go through for peace of mind, check all these. All right guys, so real quick, let's go back through what we've done. We got the rifle, we put it in the vise, we then leveled it using the Wheeler leveling system, okay? Then we took our bases. We adjusted our bases based off our eye relief to where they need to be so that they're not touching the bell or the turret or the rear end of the scope. We then put the top of the rings on. We read the instructions that we need to go to 25 inch-pounds is what our torque is. We used our Wheeler torque wrench and we went down through here in a crisscross pattern and we torqued all these to 25 inch-pounds, same with the base onto the pick rail. So now this scope is leveled with this. We can now take this off, set him aside, and now for all intents and purposes, this scope is mounted, leveled, and ready to go. So the only thing we have left now to do is bore sight it. All right, from a bore sighting standpoint, there's two different options here. You can go with the way that I grew up doing it and just kind of eyeballing it, and there is a method to that. Or you can get yourself a bore sighter. There's a lot of different options. There's a couple that go into the end of the barrel here. You just screw them in, points it at a wall. It's basically a laser range, or just a little laser like you used to play around, mess with a cat with. You take one of those lasers, put it in the end, and then you adjust the scope reticles to match up with what the laser is. This one here is by Sightbright. Okay, this little guy is specific to a 6.5 Creedmoor. Okay, it looks just like a 6.5 Creedmoor cartridge. We're gonna turn this on, and now you can see you got yourself a little laser. This little dude right here, it's all it is, just a little laser pointer, okay? So we're gonna put this inside the gun, chamber it just as though we were gonna shoot this. Now that is coming out the end of the barrel, okay? Now that it's shooting right down through. So now it's just a matter of slipping in behind the gun, finding the laser, and adjusting the reticles up and down. Adjusting those up and down so that these two talk to each other. So my rule of thumb for bore sighting is I like to take this laser somewhere around 50 yards, okay? I'll put it in the vise. It can be a 50 yards. You can do this on the range if you want. But I find something about 50 yards out, and I like to be about a ½ inch high. The majority of guns, calibers, especially a 6.5 Creedmoor, if you're a ½ inch high at 50 yards, you're gonna be pretty dang close to zeroed at 100 yards. I zero all my rifles at 100 yards. Some people like to go 200, that's a preference matter. But for the moral of this, all we're trying to do is save bullets. We're trying to get on paper so you're not out there shooting at a 4x4 foot sheet of plywood, wondering if you're hitting high, low, can't figure out where you're hitting. As long as you have a laser bore sighter and these two are talking to each other and we're close, you're gonna be at least on a 16 by 16 inch piece of paper, 12 by 12 piece of paper, and you can adjust it there to get this baby zeroed. Now, if you don't have a bore sighter, you could still get your gun close and on paper at 100 yards. I've done this for a long time. Here's what you do. Again, you're gonna wanna find something maybe 50 yards, whatever it is. So you're gonna slip in behind the gun. The bolt is completely removed. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look down through the barrel, right through the bore, and we're gonna center whatever the object is. Now this is normally done at a shooting range is what I would do. I'd have a target at 50 yards or 100 yards. I would look through the barrel and I would center, using my vise, I would center the target in this. So when you look down through, okay, you see the target is in the center. Now, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm not touching the gun because I know in the center of that is the target, okay? In theory, your eye is gonna do what the path of the bullet is. Then you're coming up through here to the scope. You're adjusting this until your crosshairs are centered on that target. Okay, this is not perfect, but again, the point of this is to save yourself bullets and to save yourself a guessing game. So if it were me, I would just get one of these little guys, get yourself a bore sighter. It's a good little stocking stuffer, makes life easy. But if you don't have one, you're not completely out of luck. Remove the bolt, look through the barrel, and adjust this so that you're looking through the barrel is the same thing that your scope is seeing. So that's it, guys. A 1,000-yard gun for under $1,000, all made right here in the USA. I wish I could say I'm the proud owner of this, but I'm not. One of you guys is gonna be. We're giving away this exact gun right here. So check the description below, find the link, click on it, get yourself entered to win this gun. All right, guys, now's the fun part. We're in Texas. We're at the Outdoor Solutions range. We got the Ruger American with the Leupold scope, all made in the USA, and now's where we actually get to send some rounds down range. So earlier we mounted the scope, we got everything leveled, and we got it bore sighted. So now, in theory, we have a target set at 100 yards. We should at least be on paper to then adjust and zero it at 100 yards. All right, perfect. That's almost too good to be true. That is almost the exact height for elevation. We're about 2 inches to the right. So I'm gonna run another one down range here just to verify, and then we will adjust from there. Now, without shooting super fast here, we don't wanna heat up the barrel too much, but the goal here is to find the 3-shot average. We will take the 3 shots, triangulate it, find the center of that, and then that is what we're gonna be adjusting, okay? So there's discrepancies in whether you're shooting, especially if you're a guy like me, hasn't been through long range training a lot. You know, it comes down to trigger pull, comes down to your breathing, comes down to a lot of variables. At the same time, we're shooting a factory barrel with factory ammunition, so there is gonna be discrepancies in your ammo. We're not expecting to shoot same hole accuracy here, especially with a factory gun and factory ammo. Nonetheless, we're gonna try to find a 3-shot average and get it zeroed at 100. All right, so we got a handful of rounds through this gun here. It seems to be shooting consistently right and high. So now it's a matter of adjusting here. So now when you look at these targets that are 1 inch by 1 inch grids, the way this works is 1 inch on your target at 100 yards is 4 clicks, meaning 1 click right here on the dial for an MOA dial is 1/4 of an inch at 100 yards. So keep that in mind. If I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, I am 2 inches right consistently, then do the math real quick. 4 times 2, 8. That means 8 clicks should bring me back to perfect left and right windage at 0. Okay, so I want to bring this left. So I'm going to be bringing her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, don't need to put the cap back on because I'm going to be running a couple more rounds here and verifying that. Bingo, there we go. So, handful of shots right there, and now the gun is verified, zeroed at 100 yards. So the important thing is having a solid building block. The fact that we now know that this gun is zeroed at 100 yards is what we're gonna build the rest of our ballistics off of. So from here, the next step is we're gonna run a chronograph. A chronograph measures the velocity. So we're gonna run 5 shots through the chrono, shooting at 100 yards, not necessarily shooting it all for accuracy, more or less to find the average velocity. Okay, so from those 5 shots with the chronograph, we're gonna know the speed. Now this is not crucial for the majority of the shooting out to probably 400 yards. You can use the ballistic velocity, or the velocity right here on the box. So this is saying 2,700 feet per second at the muzzle. That's your velocity. That's gonna be close. Like I said, shooting out to 200, 300, even to 400 yards, that's gonna get you real close. But the goal of this is 1,000 yards for under $1,000 made in the USA. So for that reason, we're gonna shoot through the chrono. We're gonna take our 5-shot average. We're gonna take that speed, enter it into our ballistic calculator app along with the ballistic coefficient and the other variables that we have. And that is what's gonna give us a correct dope for us to be able to dial in and shoot 4, 5, and beyond. All right, guys, so based off of those 5 shots, this is what we've got. Our maximum feet per second is 2,617. Our minimum is 2,574, and our average is 2,604. So when we enter this into our ballistics calculator, which we're gonna do next, we're entering 2,604 feet per second. So just to compare that to the box, which is saying 2,700 feet per second, we're looking at roughly 100 feet per second difference. Not gonna make a hell of a lot of difference at 100 yards, hell, even 200 yards. But when you get back out beyond that, 500 yards plus, that 100 feet per second is gonna make a difference. All right, so the next step here is when we have this gun zeroed at 100 yards, is we wanna take this right here. This is your raised turret. And we want this, the little hash here, to be right directly on 0. Okay, with a lot of newer scopes and a lot of higher end scopes, you can set what's called a 0 stop. This scope does not have that, but to give you a quick example, what a 0 stop is you can dial this, and right here, perfect. Do not go any lower than this because this is at 100 yards. We would loosen this turret, we would set some sort of mechanism, depending on the scope manufacturer, and you could not go lower than 100 yards. You could only increase and only raise the elevation, okay? So that way, when you're screwing it back and you want to come back to 100 yards really quick, or whatever you zeroed it at, you can twist this baby down, you're at 100 yards, okay? This scope does not have that. Okay, that's one of the $399 price point options. That's one of the things that this scope does not come with, is the zero stop. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on this. But I say all that to say, we need to make sure that this right now, because this is set at 6 3/4, okay? 6 3/4 means nothing to us. We need this to be 0, so we know that at 0, I'm zeroed at 100 yards. So they come with a little Allen key. There's gonna be a couple Allen set screws on each side here. Loosen these. So we've got the turret here. You can see this right here. We've got 9, 10, 11, 12. It goes all the way down. We start at 0. We're taking the 0, lining that up with the indicator right here. Boom. Now from that point, we're just going to tighten these 2 set screws, and that's going to lock that baby in. All right, so we got those 2 set screws tightened. So for all intents and purposes, we are zeroed at 100 yards. We have everything set. We've got our indicator set here at 0. We don't have a zero stop on this scope, but from this point forward, now we can go have some real fun. We can go shoot 300, 400, 500 yards, and we'll wrap it up at 1,000. So the next part for me here is getting a ballistic calculator set up. So that's what we're gonna do next, and I'll show you how. All right, so from a ballistic calculator standpoint, there's all sorts. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of them. I don't have any preference. I don't have any, I'm not partial to any of them. What I have used, what I've come to know, and what I'm going to be using for this is called Straylock. There'll be a little link in the description if you want to download it. But that's what we're going to be using here. So, all right, with Straylock, what we're going to do here is we're going to go in and we're going to set up this rifle, okay? So we're going to change our rifle. We're going to create a new one, and we're going to call this one Ruger American 6.5. All right, so that's that setup. Now, from a scope standpoint, our 0 is at 100 yards. Okay, so that's the first one. Our height, scope height, 1.97 inches. We can leave that. Vertical click and MOA, like I said, 1/4 of an inch. That's our MOA. Now, if it was mil dot, that's 1/10. So every click is 1/10. With MOA, it's 1/4. So we're leaving that at 0.25, leaving that down through here. Changing our reticle to LR duplex 4 to 12 Leupold, which is what we're running. All right. Minimum magnification is 4, maximum is 12, max range 12. Okay, save. So now we have that rifle saved. Now we need to come down here and set our cartridge. So our cartridge is ELDX. And those are 143 grains. Okay, so now the bullet weight in grains, right on the box, 143 grains, okay? The ballistic coefficient. Ballistic coefficient, you see G1BC, so that's the G1 ballistic coefficient, it's 0.623. So in the ballistic coefficient, we're typing 0.623. Enter that. The speed. So this is where the chronograph came in. Like I said, if you did not have a chrono, you did not have access to one, and you wanted to get close, you would enter 2700 because that's what it says here on the box. Since we shot our 5-shot group, we know that our average is 2,604 feet per second. In this field right here, we're typing 2,604 feet per second. The temperature today is 50 degrees out. And let's see. Okay, we're saving that. Now we can go a step further. The zeroing, which is what we're shooting today, we're going to enable zeroing. So we know from an altitude standpoint, we're at 1,750 feet. Enter that. The temperature is 50 degrees out, and the barometric pressure is 30. Okay, hit save. Now we have all that information in there. Okay, so that is set up for that rifle with that scope, with that cartridge, and it's figuring out a 0 of these exact conditions right here. Hit done. Okay, so now, knowing everything that we've entered, our first shot here is going to be at a steel plate at 300 yards. So at the distance, we're typing in 300 yards.
slope angle, it's relatively flat here for all intents and purposes. Wind speed, we don't have much wind speed at all right now, and what we do have is coming right directly in our face. So we're leaving these as 0. We have our rifle is the Ruger American. Our rifle is the Ruger American 6.5. We have the weather that we entered in. We know that's going on right now. Nope. For the weather, this was set to the last time I was at. So the weather, we're at 1750. The temperature is 50. And the barometric pressure is 30. Save that. Now, this is the fun part. Just hit calculate. So that tells us right there that our vertical MOA, our elevation change, is 4.45 MOA. Okay, because we're in a quarter, we're gonna dial this to 4.5 MOA. To break this down over here on the right side, it gives us an inch measurement, and that tells us this bullet is gonna be dropping 14 inches based off the conditions, based off of how we have this zeroed. It's gonna be a 14-inch drop at 300 yards. So if you have a BDC reticle and you wanna hold over, go for it accordingly. We are now gonna be able to dial. So we're gonna take it to 3, 4, 4.5. All right, so now if we've done everything right, we've got our scope, everything's leveled, we've got our scope zeroed, we have entered all of our numbers into the ballistic calculator. At this point, it should be a matter of pointing at 300 yards and then a proper execution, good breathing, and a good trigger pull. We should be ringing steel. So let's give her a shot. That is a hit right there, 300 yards. All right, so for the fun of it, let's go ahead and enter 500 yards now. So we're going to the distance, 500 yards. Everything else has stayed the same. We do have a little bit of left to right wind. I'm watching down through there. I'm seeing the mirage come left to right. I'm gonna enter a 5-mile-an-hour wind from left to right, okay? Now shooting, reading windage, all of that, that's all a totally different ball game. That's all another video. But just to ensure that I hit this, we're gonna enter this. Okay, so 500 yards, calculate. Now we're looking at 10.9 MOA, so I'm just gonna give it 11 here. So we're already at 4.5. We're gonna bring it up to 11, 10, 11. All right, so to give you an idea, that is a 57.1 inch drop. So, I mean, some of you might be better at this than me, but I do not want to be held responsible to hold 57 inches above this target here. That's the purpose of these reticles. They're in $300 scopes these days. It's a no-brainer if you're not dialing. Just a second. And there you go, 500 yards, ring and steel, in less than a box of bullets. So the takeaway is this. This day and age, with these rifles, with this scope, mounted correctly, everything leveled, and then the proper data entered into a calculator, I mean, the opportunities are endless. Now, I'm not saying we need to shoot at 500 yards when it comes time to hunt, but the point of the story is this technology, when entered and used the right way, it comes down to the shooter at that point. Not saying it's easy, but it's attainable. So, dude, this gun's a shooter. This gun's a shooter. And the cool thing is we're going to be giving this gun away right here. So if you guys pay attention, check out the description below. If you like this video, if you got something out of it, please like and subscribe. If you guys got different methods, hey, by no means am I considering myself a professional here. And I'm not saying I'm a good shot or I know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. I just know what I've learned over the years and have been able to put together. So if you got a different way of doing stuff, comment down below. If you got another video for when it comes to shooting that you guys want to see, drop a comment below and we'll see what we can do next. So now, I guess it's time to put our money where our mouth is. We have less than $1,000 into this gun right here. Every single piece of this was made in the United States of America. A lot of pride in that. And now is what it all comes down to. We're gonna try to ring steel at 1,000 yards with a rifle made in America for less than 1,000. Let's go! So, from the ballistic standpoint, going back to the app, entering 1,000 yards into the distance. Our wind speed, I'm averaging about 7 miles an hour from the left. We're gonna hold into it on the left side of the target. Hitting calculate, we're looking at 33.57 MOA. So I'm gonna dial this for 33.5 MOA. And just to give you an idea here, this is a 351.6 inch drop based off of our ballistics with this rifle right here. So definitely not something I'm gonna be holding over, but this is it. A little nervous here. 33 and a half, dialed to 33 and a half. All right, the moment of truth right here. Bam, baby, right there, 1,000 yards with a gun made in America for less than $1,000. If that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. So look at, the best part of this is we're giving this gun right here, we're giving it away. It's already set up. You're gonna wanna check it when it gets done shipping it, but look at, check the description in the link below. There's gonna be a chance for you guys to win this rifle right here. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Tune in for the next week on Smart Tips and Tricks. See y'all.